I think what interests me most about this film is the fact that the leading actress and the director are not American, and Marilyn Monroe is traditionally thought of as this American pop culture icon. Well, she is an American pop culture icon. Viewers of Netflix's new release Blonde may find themselves captivated by the hyper-realistic old Hollywood aesthetic and recreations of the most recognizable Marilyn Monroe milestones. They may also find themselves amongst the critics who call the film morbid and morose. After viewing the film twice, Blonde reads as a highly exploitative and unnecessary speculation of the most intimate parts of Monroe. Joyce Carol Oates, author of the novel Andrew Dominic based his film off of, created the story in attempts to humanize the woman behind the character of Marilyn Monroe, Norma Jean Baker. In 2015, the author went on record saying she wanted her book to be comparable to Moby Dick, and that she wanted a powerful, galvanizing image about which an epic might be constructed with myriad levels of meaning and significance. The book itself is over 700 pages and arguably provided Dominic with some sound source material for a more humanizing story, but instead he opted for the most explicit and exploitative depiction of the book. His opening scenes of Norma Jean's childhood abuse and complicated relationship with her parents is very accurate to the book, but much after that is lost in translation. Norma Jean is not the protagonist in this movie. It's actually about Marilyn Monroe, and we don't see much of Norma Jean as a person. Instead, we see her playing the character of Marilyn Monroe, and then Marilyn Monroe playing the character of whatever film she's in at the time, or whatever the studio wants Marilyn Monroe to be. We don't even really get scenes that help us transition from Norma Jean, the average girl, to the movie star Marilyn Monroe, like the conversations around choosing that stage name, the hair color, or any of the other iconic aspects of the Marilyn Monroe persona. Instead, Dominic just gives us a montage of Norma Jean's modeling photos with little to no context, and unless you are very familiar with the career arc of Marilyn Monroe, or have read the book, it would be very easy to miss the significance of this. However, in the novel, Joyce Carol Oates does expand on these aspects and conversations, which I wish Dominic would have incorporated in his film. The film is 2 hours and 45 minutes. There was time to build out Norma Jean's backstory, but that part was simply not included. So we're just left with the exact same version of Marilyn Monroe that's been marketed for the past 60 years. The Marilyn Monroe Dominic creates is very one-dimensional. She is sad, wants parental approval, and is longing for motherhood. He also makes it very clear that if she's not playing the part of the dumb blonde, she's just a very severely troubled and unhappy woman. There are several scenes where the most skilled acting that Marilyn Monroe is doing pertains to screaming, being excessively distressed, crying, or just being borderline suicidal. When she isn't miserable, she's having a threesome with other celebrities or temporarily pregnant. Both of these reinforce what we already know to be expected of Marilyn Monroe, sex-centered and motivated by male acceptance. Really, the only time she expresses individuality is in a brief scene where she rightfully calls out the studio for only being paid $5,000 for the film Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and her co-star getting $100,000. And this is my favorite scene in the entire movie, though that's not saying much. A good portion of this movie is in black and white, and as someone who has seen the film twice and read the book, I haven't been able to come up with a reasoning as to why some are in black and white and some aren't. This could have been a great way to distinguish what was Norma Jean and what was Marilyn Monroe, but the execution just wasn't clear. There are some shots that are beautifully done and are individually good plot-moving devices, but there are also transitions and visual effects that are inconsistent and sometimes distracting. So together, this doesn't help tell the story. And what makes these decisions more frustrating is that Ana de Armas clearly has the talent to convey these emotions and carry the scenes in a way that would build on the story and Norma Jean as a character, but instead we just get face distortions and overexposed lighting. Ana de Armas is also nude in quite a few scenes, and sometimes it makes sense, but other times it just reads as an overkill. When the cast and crew recreated Marilyn's nude pictures, they did that very accurately and it was done very well, so I don't think there was a need for the multiple sex scenes in which we see her entire chest. What makes this film particularly exploitative is that it's the umpteenth Marilyn Monroe film made, and it doesn't offer a new or unique narrative. Instead, it capitalizes on the tragedies that we know to be true, and then uses problematic imagination to fill in the gaps.
This film does not bring awareness or humility or just genuine sympathy to Norma Jean and all the work that she put into creating and maintaining the Marilyn Monroe persona. I do think that if Dominic spent more time building the context and character development of Norma Jean before fame, and incorporated characters that weren't directly tied to Hollywood or had a monetary investment in her, the story would come across significantly more genuine. If you watched Blonde, let me know what you think down below. I'd also be interested to know if you read the book and watched the movie, which one you liked better. Until next time, make today a good day.